Good morning, Foxes class, and welcome to our writing lesson today. So can you please in your book write the date and the LO for me? When you have done that, I would like you to have a go at editing your innovation of the problem that we wrote on Friday. So the things I would like you to pay particular attention to today, remember we always check our capital letters, full stops, and that it makes sense. The particular things are if you have a question mark at the end of your question, and did you start any proper nouns with a capital letter? So remember that means that Mrs. Martin would begin with a capital letter because it's a proper noun. It's the name, my name. Taunton would begin with a capital letter because it's the name of a place. So have a check through and make sure all of your proper nouns start with a capital letter. So date, hello, and editing your innovation of the problem. Pause the video here for me. Okay, so just like every other day, we're going to start with practicing our story now. So you'll find that video on the class page still under Thursday, the 7th of January. So can you pause the video here for me and go and practice our story map? Hopefully you know it all off by heart by now. Okay, today we are going to begin innovating our resolution. So if you listen to my welcome video today, I said that actually we are going to break our resolution into two parts because it's quite long. So we're going to write the first half today and the second half tomorrow. Before we start that writing though, I wanted to share with you someone's brilliant problem that they have sent me in. So their problem said this, and I think you can probably guess whose incredible writing this is. Zach and Reese tried to sneak into the kitchen without Tina noticing them, but they knocked her picture over. Have you two remembered to make the soup? Inquired Tina. Zach and Reese looked at each other in horror. Their tummies churned and their palms started to sweat. How on earth would they make the soup now? What an incredible paragraph. I was really impressed by quite a few things in here. I really liked how they had their inverted commas in the right place, how they remembered they needed a question mark before their inverted commas, and I was really impressed by their synonym of said, inquired. What a good idea. Inquired is when you're asking a question of somebody. How fantastic is their show, not tell as well. Their tummies churned. That's painting such a good picture in my head of what is going on. Absolutely incredible writing. As always, I'm going to start by going back to my last paragraph that I wrote and rereading it just to remind myself of what was happening in my story. Mrs. Davis quickly left the staff room and tried to sneak past the office, but it was no good. Mrs. House had spotted her. Mrs. Davis, did you manage to make my cup of tea? Requested Mrs. House, as she continued typing on her laptop. Mrs. Davis's cheeks turned red. Her palms began to sweat. What on earth was she going to do? Ah, yes, I remember my problem, that she'd used up all of those tea bags and she couldn't make the head teacher her cup of tea. And then I used my show not tell at the end to show that Mrs. Davis was embarrassed, but without telling the reader that. Okay, let's check my plan then to see what I was going to include within my resolution. Now, I said that Mrs. Davis was going to try and make her some new tea bags using things that she found in the resources room. I was going to use an emotion comma sentence, so perhaps anxious comma, and I was going to do a colon to introduce a list as well. Okay, so I've got all of those ideas in my head. Let's have a go at writing our resolution now. So you can see here my paragraph and our model text began with Terrified, comma, George set to work. So this is my emotion opener. So what emotion did I say that I was going to include? How might Mrs. Davis be feeling? Now I said that she might be quite anxious, didn't I? What punctuation do I need after my emotion? Well done. I need a comma, don't I? Anxious, comma. Now what is she going to do? I think she needs to head to the resources room. So I'm going to say anxious, comma, Mrs. Davis rushed to the resources room and closed the door behind her, slammed the door behind her, shut the door behind her. I quite like slammed and slammed the door behind her. Now, I wonder if anybody is feeling really awake on a Monday morning and can spot my mistake. I'll give you a clue. It's one that Mrs. Martin always makes in class. Well done if you've said that I've forgotten my indent at the beginning of my paragraph. Oh, Mrs. Martin, when will you remember that? Okay, so what do I do now? I reread my sentence. Anxious, comma, Mrs. Davis rushed to the resources room and slammed the door behind her. Okay, there was no point in trying to find the medicine. He had to make a new one. Well, Mrs. Davis wouldn't be able to find the tea bags because she'd used them all up. So I think I'm going to put that as my next sentence. She couldn't believe she had used all of the tea bags and forgotten to replace them. He had to make a new one. Well, I like that idea, but she's going to be making some new tea bags, isn't she? So I think I'm going to say she had to make some new ones. Okay, I'm going to put an exclamation mark here, I think. Now, I'm going to read you our sentences so far, and I want you to see if you can spot what I have done. Anxious, Mrs. Davis rushed to the resources room and slammed the door behind her. She couldn't believe she had used all of the tea bags and forgotten to replace them. She had to make some new ones. Did anybody spot what I have done here? A huge well done if you realise that two of my sentences started with she. Should I have two sentences in a row starting with the same word? That's not very interesting for my reader, is it? So I think before this sentence, I'm actually going to put in an ly opener, just to change it around a little bit. What ly opener could I put here? Now I'm thinking about putting the ly opener quickly here, but I actually think that we can think of a better word to put here than quickly, something that gives us a bit more detail. I'm going to start my sentence with the ly opener hastily. Hastily means they're in a rush. Now, of course, because I've now got hastily at the start of my sentence, I don't need my capital letter here, do I? Right, what do I need to remember to do after my sentence? That's right, read back through. Let's check I haven't got any other mistakes in there as well. Anxious, Mrs. Davis rushed to the resources room and slammed the door behind her. She couldn't believe she had used all of the tea bags and forgotten to replace them. Hastily, she had to make some new ones. Okay, this is where I was going to have my colon to introduce a list. So we were going to introduce the things that Mrs. Davis was going to use to make these new tea bags. Now I was going to magpie that opening because I really liked it, grabbing the biggest saucepan he could carry. But I'm not going to say he could carry, perhaps I might say where he's going or what he's doing. And of course it's a she. So grabbing the biggest, what might they find in a resources room instead of a saucepan? Grabbing the biggest box she could find, comma, what's she going to do now? So grabbing the biggest box she could find, quickly started looking. Grabbing the biggest box she could find, she quickly started looking for ingredients. Can we think of a better word than looking? She quickly started scouring for ingredients, searching for ingredients. I quite like searching, so I think I might choose that one today. Grabbing the biggest box she could find, she quickly started searching for ingredients. Now, this is where I need my colon to introduce my list. What things is she going to find in the resources room? I think she's going to find some food colouring, so I'm going to put some bright red food colouring. What do I need after the first item in my list? A comma, don't I? Grabbing the biggest box she could find, she quickly started searching for ingredients. Bright red food colouring. I wanted some PVA glue, so I wonder how I could describe that and add some more detail. Maybe I might say the amount. So a litre of PVA glue. And what else are we going to have? I think I said some glitter as well, so I think I might say glitter. So I like that alliteration. Golden glitter. Okay, I'm going to read that through and check this sentence makes sense. Grabbing the biggest box she could find, she quickly started searching for ingredients. Bright red food colouring, a litre of PVA glue, and golden glitter. Okay, so now she's going to have to do something with this to turn it into the tea bags. What do you think she might do with it? Obviously it's in a box, so she's not going to boil it vigorously to melt them all. Maybe she might mix it, she might stir it, she might whisk it. I think rather than he took the pan downstairs, I'm going to say she placed the box on the floor and she's going to do with the box now. She placed the box on the floor and whisked it vigorously. Does that make sense? And stirred it as quickly as she could, and perhaps stirred it with all her might. I quite like that. Maybe I'll put that in. She placed the box on the floor and stirred it with all her might until it looked like tea bags, until it looked like tea leaves, until it resembled. That would be a good word instead of looked. Until it resembled tea leaves. Okay, I think my paragraph is complete, but of course I need to reread it. Anxious, Mrs. Davis rushed to the resources room and slammed the door behind her. She couldn't believe she had used all of the tea bags and forgotten to replace them. Hastily, she had to make some new ones. Grabbing the biggest box she could find, she quickly started searching for ingredients. Bright red food colouring, a litre of PVA glue, and golden glitter. She placed the box on the floor and stirred it with all her might until it resembled tea leaves. Okay, I'm pretty confident with that paragraph, so I think part 1 of my resolution is complete. I would like you now to have a go at writing your part 1. Can you please try for me to include your emotion opener and your colon to introduce your list? Now remember, this is our resolution, so we're beginning to solve the problem. For most of you, that will mean that you are creating a new item to replace the one that has been lost. That might not be the case for all of you, but for most of you, that will be what is happening. Please send them in to me when you've written them so that I can have a read of your fantastic work.